Okay, sorry about the last 30-minute recording. I realized I didn't have the external microphone plugged in. I was using the microphone that is built into the laptop, and so there'll be some more background noise. At this point, I'm going to re-record it, but if people can't understand what I'm saying, record it again. I listen to my headphones, I can make out what I'm saying, but there might be some confusion there, so who listens to it. The reason is I have to pull out the USB connection to external hard drive to, well, actually, this is a microphone, so that's the little jack there I pulled out and put in the external hard, moving over the previous recording, and I forgot to put it back. Anyway, while we're on nighttime photography, I thought I would pull up a photograph of fireworks that I took in the past, and got the EXIF data for that, just to give you an idea of some settings you might use for taking pictures of fireworks. And it varies depending on how quickly they're letting off the fireworks. On this one you can see it was just apparently 2 seconds. This was the kind of finale at the end where they were letting off a lot of fireworks. If you're letting them off pretty slowly, you can obviously set the exposure for either. The longer you have the exposure, though, the more are going to be in the sky. You know, keep that in mind. For instance, if this were a 10-sec exposure, you can imagine how many more would be in the sky. It probably would be too full of different fireworks. Aperture at f11, focal length what is wide open, or wide as I could get it, meters, and then we have everything else. But these are the most, the ones you gotta pay attention to the most for usual, I think. For back to the settings, I guess you will have a larger exposure, I guess 2 seconds exposure though still. So moving over to Photoshop, back for a little while, Milky Way photography. I want to show you the layers that I mentioned in the end of the last recording. So I have 3 layers here. I'm clicking off the so that is pretty much how, you know, let me just go through the process. Together multiple images, auto stitch. Well, I guess I could put them together manually because it recognizes the lining. So I did that. It would do that. That helped a lot. You know, as it were too light or lighter and darker between images. I took a copy of this layer. If I were to right click while I have this layer selected, you can see layer 2, it's blue, so it's selected. I can say duplicate layer. So that's one way to, I could also select everything, control all, copy and paste, and then it would do another. Either way would work. Just so you have multiple layers of the exact same image. And let's say I copied, or let's say I made a new layer 2. So this just appeared. What I have done here is I have it on an overlay setting instead of, if I click on that, normal, which it was before, opacity percent. I clicked on the overlay. So then it makes it very dark, as you can see. Then I brought this other layer and I copied the original layer, again not this one, but anyway, I copied it twice. And let me just click off of make this one so it's not visible. So you can see the screen, if I were to put this at 100%, that's what it looks like. But when you back it on the original, it's screening it and it becomes lighter. So I have a over light one with an over dark one. In a sense, maybe it's a little like, you know, under and over exposing. But anyway, the effect is it makes things stand out more. So I'll get rid of these. I'll get rid of these 2 layers, and you can see how it was originally. Now keep in mind also, when I brought these multiple images in before they were pieced together, They were in raw format, and I did as much tweaking as I could to bring out the stars and darken the background. I also used some filters, like I mentioned, to get rid of some of the spots that developed when I started, tweaking things. I showed all those filters and everything in previous demos, but yeah. For instance, the sharpening you can do in the raw files. I sharpened it, but in this case, I also had to use some of the filters to soften the. I was getting too much noise. I did the luminance filter was one of them, but anyway. So just keep in mind it actually doesn't even look this good straight out of the camera. It's more subtle than this. So this is after working it over. And then I do the 2 different layers to bring it out even more. And then I might flatten everything. Go over here to flatten image. Let's see, opacity. Well, I have the opacity on this one, I think, at 96%. And it could vary, obviously. I might want to reduce the opacity on this one on some occasions, but I found, again, it's kind of depends on what you want it to look like. Do you want the sky to be really dark? Don't mind if it's a little bit lighter. I was mainly just trying to get maximum visual, make this stand out more without it looking too ridiculous, I guess. Ridiculous, you might say. So I'm just going to flatten the image. I'm not sure if I'm recording. Apparently I am. Okay. Good. I'm going to pause it then. Make sure that's open. Okay, as you can see here. Some things I might do, I might, go over here to adjustments and use the Swell. For instance, maybe I read out a little bit more. Doesn't seem that much. Anyway, I'm not going to go through all of these settings, but essentially what I'm trying to do is, well, basically I would go through all the different things that I've done in previous examples, tweaking it. I might, in this situation, I might want to increase the hue and saturation somewhat, perhaps. That might be a little much. And let's see, hue. Well, we'll just leave it at 0. Maybe I want to increase the contrast a tad, perhaps, or not. We'll see how it looks. Let's try to bump up the brightness, increase the contrast. Darkening it, contrasting, it darkens it though, so it doesn't stand out as much. It's kind of a happy medium between lightening it too much and darkening it. So maybe it does stand out a little more with some extra brightness there. One thing I sometimes try is bring it in this end contrast way up, and so they're right under one another, essentially. That stands out a lot more right there. That might be a little overkill, but that would help to some extent. So here's before and after. So I think I will go with that, bumping up the brightness and contrast significantly. And it will take a little while, but while it's doing that, so this looks, very much like what I uploaded to the internet, so you can kind of see what I'm doing. Maybe I want to take this layer again and make a copy of it and do the same thing I did once over again to see if I can, bump it up even more. I mean, there's just different things you might try to do. I think this is probably good enough for it. So, anyway, I'll hit cancel and let's move on to some other things I want to cover. Also relating to photography. So when you're, let me just mention, when you're taking pictures in the nighttime sky, there are some limiting factors, and that has to do with the atmosphere. Obviously, you can tell when it's cloudy out, but sometimes you can't really tell very well. There are some other factors. One is called, I'm trying to remember what it's called. Let's refresh some of them. And that kind of has to do, sometimes you'll have light and dark area, not light and dark, you'll have cool areas in the atmosphere and warm areas, and when they mix together, you've seen on the pavement or something that's very hot where in the sky or in the air. It's the same thing when the warm and cold is mixing in the atmosphere overhead. If there's a lot of that disparity and mixing going on between very warm and cold, you're seeing ability goes down. So that is what I'm talking. Charts here, these are also in your course outline. I'm not sure why it's taking so long. They're in your course outline, but this, I've gone over to Salt Lake City because that's near where I am. For instance, here is the main website. Then you can go over here and select your state, different locations there are, which state. If I clicked on Massachusetts randomly, then I can see all the different locations. I could come this one in Star Party, and that's just a location within the state where they are monitoring the sky overhead. So this is the one in Salt Lake City. Right now, it's really clear out. Sometimes it hasn't been. Surprisingly, it's not this good very often. Often when seeing is good, cloud cover and transparency are bad, and vice versa. When seeing is bad, everything is nice and clear overhead. For some reason, I guess the cloud cover and everything causes there to be more static, and seeing is better. So, and again, remember, seeing is a mixing of the cold, hot air masses overhead. So you can see right down here, this is, here we go, color-coded transparency. The lighter colors means it's poor quality, I guess you might say overhead. So here's transparency, below average, average, above average, and transparent. So the darker the better. Transparency is how much haze there is overhead. If there's anything, seeing right up all the way to the stars. Then cloud cover is obvious what that is. It gives a description here of what these things are anyway. Anyway, there's that link for you. Darkness that shows it's pretty dark right now. I guess the moon is not out as well. That can affect it also. And these would be daylight hours, obviously, with the light and the darkness area. So this is important. The reason I'm going over this is so, nighttime sky, you want to go out when these conditions are reasonably good, like they are right now, to take photographs. If you were taking a picture of the moon, for instance, and your transparency wasn't that good, it would look fuzzy, actually fuzzier on your film. It wouldn't look as crisp, even though, you were focused in to infinity and, as well as you could. It would reduce your image quality on the details you see on the moon. Okay, so especially the seeing is what does the worst. obviously people who have telescopes have to worry about this even more, and that's kind of what this is used for. People taking pictures, not necessarily taking pictures, but looking at not clouds, looking at planets and stars, nebulas, what have you. Another issue, very big issue with seeing the nighttime sky and something like this is light pollution. The area I took this was a rural area out in the middle of nowhere, but you can still see the lights here to some extent. That might be another city in the distance. But it's surprising how much light pollution there is. So in this link right here, you can go down here, or any location, like this other one, Acton Party, and click on the light pollution map. So if you click on that, it brings this up, and I can see that, now this is Salt Lake right here, and it's the white area, so that's the most light polluted area. And it's interesting and even surprising to see how far the light pollution stretches out. Over here is probably Spanish Fork, I believe, right there, that red dot. This is, I'm not entirely sure, it might be maybe Ogden, I'm not sure. Probably. But you can see it's just sprawled out everywhere. You have to go way out to the middle of nowhere, and even then it's kind of still gray. You have to go far, far out in the desert before you get into the black zone. Almost, way past the delta is out here. This is delta right around here. So the closer you get out to the black nighttime sky is how it was, back before we had electricity, and that's where you want to go if you can to take photographs. I was out right around here, I think, when I was taking the photograph of the Milky Way south of Nepal. Right there. Okay, so moving on here. Oh, also you can download an image overlay for Google Earth. If you've downloaded Google Earth, that's pretty useful. You can zoom in then, and it's kind of hard in this to tell where, get your bearings of where's, I've looked at this before and I can kind of tell what these spots are, but obviously, right away it's not that recognizable at all. So I'm going to pause because I wanted to pull up Google Earth and just show you the overlay, if I can. Okay, so here we have Google Earth opened up. When you download the file at the link right over here, right there, download full map, or sorry, I guess image overlay, which one it was, you'd have to, oh, the full map, that's right, the full map is for the United States. The image is just this section right there. That's probably the one you want to deal with. Full map is pretty, 30 megabytes after decompression. Let's see, what was it? Yeah, you download it there, and I believe it's a KMZ file, and you could find it, and then you right-click on it, say Open With Google Earth, and you might have to go find which program to open it with. It might not automatically know it, or even have Google Earth in the lineup of the appropriate programs to use to open that file. Anyway, so I've opened it up in the past, and it's in my places here, so it's there. Everyone open it up, so, but I don't have it checked, so I'll check right there, and there it pops up. A little bit hard to see where it turns the black area. You can kind of see here, the dark area, but this would be the gray zone. And again, this is Salt Lake. I'm sorry, this was Provo right here. That's right, not Spanish Fork. Spanish Fork is down this way. So you can just see how far it extends. I took a picture when I was out at Topaz Mountain. In fact, let's see if we can pull out Topaz Mountain, that location. So obviously that is way out in the middle of nowhere. in I think Juab County right there. So at nighttime, luckily it was clear out, and I took some photos. And lo and behold, even though the camera was at 18 millimeters, I wasn't zoomed in. I noticed that when I brought it into the computer and zoomed in, I had one small portion had the Andromeda Galaxy, and it wouldn't have shown up very well, except that I was in a very dark area. Normally you want to, expose your film for maybe several minutes to get a picture of a galaxy because it's so faint. So yeah, this seems like photography, but you'd be surprised how much it does if you want to get a good photo. So you have to really be aware of your limitations as far as the quality of the nighttime sky and the light pollution. It's really a large limiting factor in taking pictures of the nighttime, excuse me, nighttime sky. Also in this picture of the Andromeda Galaxy, if I had zoomed in more, if I had another 300 millimeter lens or something, and I was managed to focus in on the Andromeda Galaxy with these conditions, it probably would have been surprisingly good, considering I didn't have something to track slowly across the sky for a several minute exposure. Again, I could only do about 30 minutes or so, 30 seconds or so before it starts to smear and smudge. Even it will double the photo a little bit of the image of the galaxy. Okay, so that's that. And you see all the little other places I plotted there just over time. Anyway. Alright, moving on. I'll pause here for just a second, check the time.